Welcome to Jurassic Park.
I'm not even supposed to be here today.
I'm just a fucked up girl who's looking for my own peace of mind.
Welcome to the party, pal.
I'll be back.
I'll have what she's having. Death has come to your little town, Sheriff. You can either ignore it, or you can help me to stop it.
All right, Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up.
Hello, and welcome to the We Need to Talk About Disney podcast. I am your host, Victoria Brown, and I am joined by my lovely co-host, Maria McQuillan. Hi, Maria.
Hello.
And we have a very, very special guest, Jim McLean.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. I don't know why I went all coy there. So, yeah, delighted to be on this pod. I'm not hosting, and I hear a lot of people who listen to this pod regularly going, thank fuck. And I know this is a Disney pod. I know this is a Disney podcast, but it's Disney After Dark. Ooh.
We thought for getting back into the swing of things with our Disney podcast that we would start with maybe not the most known Disney Halloween classic, but today we're going to be talking about Halloweentown. Very spooky. Here's a little clip from the film.
Saturday, October 17th on Magical World of Disney. Marty Cromwell's family can't be normal.
Why?
Because her grandmother's a witch.
Totally.
And she lives in Halloweentown, where it's Halloween all the time.
Halloween is cool.
Well, battling an evil shadow creature is just not normal.
Oh, it's normal and vastly overrated.
Find out more about Marty Cromwell's family's strange powers.
Powers? What powers?
In the Saturday premiere of Disney's original movie, Halloweentown. Saturday, October 17th on Magical World of Disney. Movies at 7, 6 Central.
So, for those of us who viewed Halloweentown for the very first time the other night, I really enjoyed it, but I didn't love it as much as I thought I would. So I'm curious to get my co-host and my guests' opinions on this. Maria, what did you think?
When I was watching it, I was like, I wonder if I would have liked this as a kid. Because as an adult, I really didn't. It felt kind of like when I was watching it, I had a thought quite early on that it was kind of like watching a theme park. Do you know, like whenever it's like all themed for Halloween? Because do you know, it had this kind of like, it was a movie. It had this kind of false feeling for me the whole way throughout, and I just couldn't quite get into it, despite Debbie Reynolds. Like acting her socks off. I was like, I can't. There's just, I don't know. I just felt really detached from it in a way. And I feel bad for it because it's like, it seems like a very sweet film. It seems like the kind of Halloween film that kids who get scared easily can watch.
Children like Maria.
Yeah, that's my overall broad strokes thoughts on the film.
Okay, it's your initial thoughts. How about you, Jim?
I like this but didn't love it. It's a bit twiddly-dee for me, and I know in the previous format for this pod we would have always talked about this is a nice little gateway drug into horror for kids, and we were talking about this on the TV show, and the lovely Jim McMorrow, who did not like this movie, very much did not like this movie, made the point. It's like, well, you've got like the old classics, the like Bride of Frankenstein. Those are gateway drugs for kids into horror. I would disagree with him on that front. There's a charm to it. It's very cheap, very cheaply made for what, 98. I think this was Disney Channel, so kind of predates streaming and all that stuff. I think Maria said poor old Debbie Reynolds was acting her socks off. She wasn't really given that much to do. I liked it, but I'm not the target audience when I'm now about to hit 42. And I don't think I was the target audience when this was released back in 98, because I would have been 16 when this would have been out, and I would have been too cool for that type of thing by then.
Far too cool.
I'm still too cool. But I kind of liked it. You kind of have this basic story of a coming of age for a witch. She's turning 13. Her mysterious granny with her pain in the arse bag finally arrives, and then they go off on a little adventure to Halloweentown and confront a mysterious warlock who in no way looks like the Emperor Palpatine from Star Wars when he's in his costume. But yeah, because you guys, I mean, you're younger than me, right? And you both, anytime we've done this pod before, always talk about your love for the Disney Channel. I was a bit like Rishi Sunak. I didn't have Sky when I was younger, so I didn't have the joys of the Disney Channel. I had to pick up stuff on VHS or things like that. So this missed me, and I thought when this was out, it's like, was this around the same time as Hocus Pocus? Because I could get it, but it's out, what, 5 years after it? Hocus Pocus 93, this is 98. It feels a bit, you would think it would be the other way around, because Hocus Pocus is a bit of edge, bit of grit. This is very safe, but maybe that is because it's for TV. I don't know.
That's a curious one, because when I was looking into the film a little bit, the reason it kind of came about, it was a husband and wife couple who were both in TV and film, and one of the producers said what got the concept rolling was his daughter had asked him, where do all the spooky creatures go when it's not Halloween?
Lauren.
And initially, that's very true. Initially, when they pitched it to Disney, they said no. And then they saw something else that the producers had made and said, right, we'll give you another chance, but we want you to kind of rework it. So they turned it into something for kids. And I'm kind of the same as you, Jim. Like, we didn't have Disney Channel until I was a wee bit older. Like, it was a novelty for us because my nan and granda had Sky. They were the fancy grandparents, and we got to go and use their big TV. But this wasn't on Disney Channel a lot when I was growing up. I don't remember ever seeing it on TV, either that or I just missed it. But I kind of had the same thoughts as you, Maria. Like, if I had saw this as a kid, would I have loved it? But I did feel a weird sense of detachment. Like, I could appreciate what it was trying to do, but I just felt I couldn't get into it the way I was expecting myself to, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's funny. I think I'm about to be the third person who's like, I didn't also have Disney Channel as a kid, but my granny did. But we lived a good couple hours from her, so I'd only get to watch Disney Channel when I was at hers. And I don't remember seeing Halloweentown. I remember watching Hocus Pocus on RTE and being very frightened. But I don't remember watching this, and I wonder, like, maybe the sequels were more out at that time. But yeah, I also was a kid who didn't like Halloween, so I wonder if I just was like, I'm not watching it, I'm gonna watch Milan again.
That's a good choice.
So yeah, it's a funny one because, like, it feels like the kind of thing I feel like I should have seen before this, and I definitely haven't. Yeah, I don't know.
It for me feels very much like something that's designed for middle class, if that's the equivalent in America, kind of middle class, very safe, kind of, as I say, straight for TV. I will say this, and I can't claim it because Margaret McGoldrick made the point. I think actually she made it after the TV show had finished recording this week, because Fright Club NI picked this title for their last in their series of Pick of the Screams, because I refused their first choice, but we'll not go into that. And she said, look, the one thing she liked about it was the fact that it just seemed like normal kids. It didn't seem like now when you see a lot of the stuff, like particularly I guess we could compare it to maybe like the High School Musical stuff, where they're all drama school kids and kind of performers from a young age, the lovely, lovely dreamboat that is Zac Efron. But it just feels like they were walking along a street someday and found three kids and went, right, do you want to be in a movie? Every kid's dream. I'm going to make you a star. You want to be in the movies? Come on. And it kind of went from there. And it just so happens you've got Debbie Reynolds, and the mum is played by the actress whose name has went out of my head, but I know she was the first April O'Neil in the first Turtles movie. So I spent most of the movie going, where do I recognise you from? And it's like, of course it was my childhood. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Is it Judith Hogg or Hogue?
Yes, yeah. I think you're correct.
Yeah. Oh, see, I really, really wanted to like this movie because for anyone that hasn't watched it for a wee while, it opens with Marnie, who's our main character. She's 13, well, approaching 13. She's always wanted to go out trick-or-treating, but her mom has never let her. And Marnie can't understand why. Marnie's into witchery, she's into vampires, she's into werewolves, and she makes that very clear to her mother. But her mother is not having it. She straight up refuses to let them trick or treat. She won't even let trick or treaters come to the door. And we find out that it's because Marnie is descended from a long line of witches called the Cromwells. And a long, long time ago, all the creatures from Halloween decided we are being persecuted, we're in danger here, we're going to go off and create our own community. Her grandmother, played by the lovely Debbie Reynolds, is one of the witches who lives in Halloweentown and comes across every now and then to spend some time with her grandkids. And that's when Marnie kind of has a suspicion that there's something special about her. And her mother is very, very against the grandmother being there. And it's because she does not want her children to have the life that she had. And I can appreciate that, but it felt very forced. It didn't seem very sincere for me. There's some aspects of the plot I just thought were a bit silly. The main antagonist is the mayor of Halloweentown. You know that straight away. Like, I knew instantly he was going to be the bad guy because he was too smooth, he was too charming, but he was also kind of creepy. But he's essentially doing a Voldemort, and he wants to take over the world and take their rightful place in the mortal world that he thinks that they were kicked out of. But the main thing that bothers me about this plot, Agatha, or Splendora, as her proper name is, Debbie Reynolds' character, becomes suspicious because a lot of people in Halloweentown start acting strange and then they disappear. We eventually find out that it's because the villain, I think it's Calabar, is freezing them and keeping them in an abandoned movie theater. But at the end of the film, when it's revealed that he's the big bad guy, he's doing a big speech to convince them all to go back to the mortal world anyway. So why did he need to freeze them? What was the point? Like,
because secretly he was the producer of Joker, Folie à Deux, and if he froze them and kept them in the cinema, it just counted as kind of did still being watching the movie. He's actually secret. It's a whole double bluff, Victoria. He's actually Joaquin Phoenix in disguise.
Was it a long time coming? Very long hidden secret.
Yeah, they played the long game on that one.
I will say there was two men in the film who were greatly motivated by wanting a woman to go out with them, and I was like, I'm not so sure I'm a fan of this, because it was like Calabar was like, do you remember we used to go out back in the day? Let's go back to all of our like spots that we used to go to. And then like the kid, I can't remember his name, he's the little goblin. He's like,
Luke,
I just wanted to go out with you. And hey, being handsome didn't get that either.
On that note, I'm nearly certain, on that note, that little toe rag that you're talking about, I'm nearly certain he might not be a Van Dyke, but I think he is of the Van Dyke lineage. Because as we know,
yes.
the Van Dykes are like the Baldwins. They just have to have actors everywhere.
Of course.
Philip, I think he is. Philip Van Dyke.
Yes.
Yes.
To be fair, the kid actors are actually very, very good. Like the girl that plays Marnie, I think her name's Kimberly J. Brown. I remember looking at the poster for Halloweentown and thinking, I have seen her in something before. And my partner was sitting beside me and he was waiting for me to twig on. I had seen her in a really random Stephen King version of The Haunting of Hill House called Rose Red. But I remembered her because her character doesn't speak throughout the series. And then as soon as Marnie opened her mouth, I was like, shut up. You're such a gurn. Like, I don't know if maybe 12, 13-year-old me would have resonated with her. But like as an adult, I just found her really irritating. And I actually found the son, Dylan, who's meant to be a bit of a wet blanket, I found him really funny. Like, he's unintentionally funny. And the youngest child, Sophie, is just, she's the sweetest little child. Like, she's just so smiley and she just wants to help. And I just,
And she likes a wee song. She remembers for no apparent reason when the plot just needs it. She's like, I just remembered that little song I made.
That really obscure spell that nobody could remember.
Yeah, it was a really early Chapel Roan song.
I will say, at several points during the film, when Marnie was like, I'm a witch, I was like, your younger sister clearly is. I'm not convinced you are. I've yet to see any magic, Marnie.
Literally, because like
You would
it
be a
shows you.
terrible Maria McQuillan. You would be a really terrible parent. I'm a witch. Are you? Are you really?
Are you though?
Well, your sister's stealing cookies. You've done jack shit.
Genuinely though, like Marnie shows no inclination for magic apart from being really obsessed with this horrible looking broom that she finds. But like, apart from her feeling special and feeling different, there's nothing to indicate that she has any powers.
This is true.
The only thing that kind of gives it away, I guess, is when the grandmother shows them a book of Halloweentown. The witch in the book looks like Marnie, but does it though?
I love the brother's like, it could be anyone.
Yeah, he's so dumb.
Like, I find him, I will say, intensely irritating. But then when I was thinking back on his quotes, I would start laughing. Like the one where he's like, "Is everybody enjoying the 68-degree temperature in here?" Like,
He's such a dweeb.
The kids. I mean, I will say the one good thing in the film is that every kid felt very distinct. Like they're very distinct characters. In a way that I don't think the adults are. Which maybe would appeal to kids more. But yeah, I don't know. There's just something the whole way through. I was like, Marnie, I am begging you to like cause something to explode by accident.
Literally anything.
I think that says more about you two than anything.
Maybe.
I was looking, I mean, it does have a cult status, not to the same level of something like Hocus Pocus, which I think has just kind of transcended things. And I guess the fact that Hocus Pocus was out 5 years before, got cinematically released, we've had a sequel. I mean, we've had I think, Maria, you said there's 2 sequels to Halloweentown, and they're all 3. I'm not going to be really venturing down those, but I guess there is people who, unlike you two and me, who were, better off than Rishi Sunak, were able to get Sky, were able to sit and watch this. And I guess, there's that sense nowadays that they could put that on with their kids. I think there's better movies they could be watching, without a doubt, but you're not going to offend anybody. Probably the scariest thing in this is probably Benny, the skeleton taxi driver, who is quite nice, doesn't seem to care about money, and also for out of nowhere just decides to turn evil for a second, and later on in the scene is like, oh, it's fine, it's Benny, I'll give you a lift, nay bother with those weird overexpressive eye sockets, or whatever they want to call them.
I did enjoy Benny. It's nice to kind of see, because there's a lot of memes this time of year around spooky season, and you always see the skeleton taxi driver, and I didn't know where it was from, but now I do.
Now you get that meme. Finally, of the power of Banterflix, you get that meme. And the weird kind of werewolf hairstylist, who he's a bit weird. And then the ghost, isn't it? The ghost, they go and they have to get all the stuff to get is it the talisman or whatever it is to get it to work?
Merlin's talisman. They need hair of a werewolf, a vampire's fang, and the sweat of a ghost.
I've also realised we haven't got this far. I know I want to come back to that. The fact that we haven't really talked too much about Debbie Reynolds. I think, Maria, you said that you thought she was acting her socks off. I thought she was just on autopilot, but I think she's back in all this, in at least a few of the sequels, if not all of them. And it's just that scene. There's an unfortunate event where she's frozen at this cinema and she's forced to watch Joker Folie à Deux, when she's like, you'll have to be quicker than that to catch a Cromwell, and he just gets her. You're like, all right, okay, boom. So he was pretty quick. So yeah, she, Debbie Reynolds, I love. Singing in the Rain, with Christmas time, I will happily put that on, and I love interviews with her, but she's not really. I mean, the most expression we see her is literally when she's talking to a handbag, because she's kind of like a Mary Poppins kind of character at the start.
Yeah, that was the vibe I was getting.
She arrives in this weird little flying bus, and then comes to visit the family. Is it really explained? Can she visit like once a year, only certain times a year?
It's not really explained. It's very vague. Because
not really, they seem to have a close connection with their granny. Well, who doesn't? We all love our granny. and our grandas, and I just think, but do they really see her that often? So why have they got this close? I don't know. It's just, it's a weird little film. It's a cookie cutter of a movie. No real teeth to it. I mean, the director of this, when you think back, I'm nearly certain he was the editor on some of the Star Wars movies, on Twin Peaks, I think, as well. Maybe the series. So he's someone who knows what he's doing. I'd love to say the practical effects were great, but it did look cheap. I think it's. I'm not lying. I've got the facts. I've got it open in front. I think it's like $4 million this was made for, which seems like an awful lot of money. I want to know where that $4 million went.
I think it went on the broomstick scene, because apparently the scene where Marnie and the grandmother fly was done on green screen or blue screen, and apparently they're only in the air for like 30 seconds, but it took a whole day to film. So I'm wondering, is that where like 90% of the budget went? God. But then I wonder, like, Halloween in the 90s was kind of cheap. Like, anyone from Northern Ireland has dressed up as a bin bag ghost. Like, we all had the cheap fake nose and the fake fingers. Like, is that meant to be part of the charm, that it looks kind of homemade?
Yeah, but you say that, Victoria. You look at, so this is 98. You look at Hocus Pocus. Look at the extravagance that's going on there. There's owl dolls dressing up as Madonna. There's people as clearly swinging couples dressing up as the devil and whatever it is. And you've got all that kind of stuff going on in the streets and the big parties. That's 93. So, yeah, Halloween wasn't... I mean, it's much more commercial now. We've got all the kind of stuff that you see in America now. You look at all the haunted house stuff. So you need to go around West Belfast to see people are really going OTT with their directions. There are decorations outside. Yeah, in the 90s, in our good old days, we bobbed for apples and went to the Ulster American Folk Park. In my day... yeah, I don't know. I mean, was Halloween not always kind of like massive in America? Always kind of like, even in the 90s?
I think so, because even when I think of Halloween, I think of a very American Halloween, like people out in the suburbs trick-or-treating, and then once all the kids are done, all the adults come out to play. I'm so annoyed that I don't like this film as much as I wanted to.
I think, though, with this film, because it was like an early Disney Channel film, that's probably why they were like, we're not going to put a huge amount of like budget in, though, because like you say, Halloween is pretty big in the States, but I think they're like, it's a kids film, the big box is in, because like this is the era of like slasher movies doing well for adults, spooky Halloween, whereas this is like very cutesy, you watch with all the family Halloween. And I think that's what it's meant to be. This is all the like cutesy side of it more than anything else. I also think all of the budget went to getting Debbie Reynolds.
That's a good point, actually.
And the like 7,000 extras they had in costumes.
Maybe, Maria, she was just very passionate about this project. Maybe, I don't know. But again, this is the weird thing, we're recording this now in 2024. You look, is it Netflix has just released or just about to release like a film with over 300 million budget? That's a streamer. And I mean, like the three of us are here. If all of us have Netflix, now I'm on the basic one, the $4.99. I'm on a tight shoestring budget these days. That's, if I watch that film 15 times, that's only $4.99 that month they get from me. It's not like at the cinema. So I guess, coming back to this, the fact that it's a Disney made for TV, they're only, no matter how many subscribers they get, how many times they watch, I guess, well, it's different because Disney Channel, it was programmed. It was Saturday night, 7 o'clock, that's going to be on. Next Saturday, you can't just download and watch it whenever you want, but they're not going to get massive revenue back. There's always thing I'm not perplexed by Netflix. Other streamers are of course available, but it's that sense that they go for these big these massive budgets, but when it's not theatrically released, they're really they can't. Okay, yes, they can get more subscribers. I guess that's where they want. But with Halloweentown, I mean, I don't think Halloweentown's going to be used to go, hey kids, there's going to be an ad at your local shop, Woolworths, Wellworths, going, get Disney Channel this month and you can watch Halloweentown. I don't think it's going to be advertised like that, because kids back in 98 had Goosebumps. And watching this reminded me of Goosebumps, and you go, it was edgier and darker and had a bit more bite to it. This just feels like a Lifetime movie.
Yeah.
In that sense, like when you watch the Christmas stuff and you go, here's the uptight city girl, there's the guy from out of town, he's coming home for Christmas. Oh no, it's all went wrong, and they're going to get together. Halloweentown just feels like I would watch it. I would expect to see it now on watching something like this alongside Mrs. Miracle, which I love. I adore Mrs. Miracle and the sequel. And the terrible third one that uses one of the mums from Sabrina the Teenage Witch. But we don't talk about that one.
I'm not familiar with Mrs. Miracle.
Oh, Maria. If you take anything from this podcast,
it's that.
Check out Mrs. Miracle. Possibly we might do a Mrs. Miracle special on the TV show this year for Christmas. It's terrible. So the first Mrs. Miracle has Dawson in it.
Nice.
Dawson, and Dawson's a grieving widower who's still struggling to come to the death of his wife. And Mrs. Miracle shows up as a kind of Mary Poppins-esque character, and he learns to love again. I genuinely, I'm not even any word of a lie, I love Mrs. Miracle. It's terrible. It's like Love Actually. Put it on. If you made me watch Love Actually or Mrs. Miracle in March, I'd berate you. You put me in front of that channel watching it at around December with some eggnog, wrapping some presents. I'll be sitting there crying and blubbing by the end of the film. And this is how, and bringing it back, this is spooky season. Maybe we're not being positive about this movie. We're not being negative about it, but maybe if we watched this in July, would be more nasty?
I think I would.
Yeah, same. It makes me wonder though, because there was 3 sequels, so it must have done relatively well, or they must have had some faith in it.
Yeah, I guess when you can make it for 4 million quid, it still seems like a massive amount of money. As you say, clearly the budget went on that over extreme flying sequence. I guess that in a way they're cheap to make, and maybe once you've made the first one, that's the worst of it over. And if you've got Debbie Reynolds, why not?
I wonder if it was like just because like that's really the beginning of Disney Channel.
Yeah,
so these are like really new. They don't really.
Yeah.
I watched like a documentary, and it was about like the beginning of Disney Channel, and a part of what they talked about was how they were coming up with children's programming that was Disney, because I think Nickelodeon basically had the corner in the market at that time, and that was all like slime and guts and blah blah blah.
Hey Arnold.
Yeah, and Hey Arnold.
Move it, football head. Sorry.
you have to.
But you have like that's a certain style of kids program, whereas Disney Channel was designed to be, I can watch this with my children. Like
but
this
Disney Channel had recess. Disney Channel had recess, did it not?
I know, but like it was weird because it was basically kind of like, this is very wholesome, kid friendly TV. And I wonder if that's what part of this was like. People watch this in America and were like, perfect. I love that my little darling is watching this.
Oh, Maria, do you know what this sounds like? This sounds like wholesome TV for Trump supporters. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I was going for. Was like, this is when you said middle class earlier. This is very like, there's something about
there will be no LGBTQ plus representation in Halloweentown. We will make Halloweentown great again. We're going to make it for white people. Is there many people? Not people. Is there many actors of color? And I don't think so. I think this is a largely white cast. I think I know.
Yeah, most of them
I
are
think the
white.
actor maybe who voices the skeleton, but it's not on. He's not on screen. I could be wrong. I could stand corrected. It's a very, white. But I've talked about this before. You mentioned slasher movies earlier on, Maria. You look at the first Scream, largely white. Nightmare on Elm Street, I know, okay, is the 80s, very white. So it's not just Disney Channel. At this time, you can hit that stick with, and they learned their lessons. They give us High School Musical later on.
I think that's the thing. They kind of had to come up with the formula that worked for them. And I think something like this, maybe it's an example of like giving an IP a shot. Like this did moderately well, let's say. So they're like, amazing, we'll do another one next Halloween.
I think it was one. Didn't you say it was like? Did you say it's like only? I think it was like the third or the fourth of their original movies.
Or fun, yeah.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that's part of it, was they were just kind of like, yeah, sure, let's give it a shot. Whereas I don't know if it would do as well today at all. I think there's a lot of nostalgia involved in this being like continued as a tradition.
Well, there's a lot of stuff I watch now on the Disney Channel on Disney Plus. There's loads of stuff because again, I'm cheap. I have the ad-supported version of Disney Plus. They're always, is it The Descendants?
Yeah.
That kind of thing. They're always pushing it. I've never watched it. My lovely wife has explained to me kind of what's going on. She hasn't watched it just because her mum's neighbour comes in to watch Disney Plus and she's obsessed with that. I guess is something like that an equivalent of Halloweentown now? Although looking at The Descendants, it looks like clearly a bigger budget behind it, and a bit more in the sense of representation than what we had back in the 90s. Is that the kind of equivalent of what you would get with a Halloweentown? So I'm surprised that I don't know when the last Halloweentown sequel was out, that they haven't said, well, let's do a Halloweentown sequel for Disney Plus or a TV series.
I think it's pretty notable that it was Hocus Pocus 2 that came out. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hocus Pocus 3 is coming, kids.
Oh no.
It's going to be even more terrible than the second.
I can't do it to myself.
I would never ask you to do that.
But I would love for us to watch The Descendants, because I made my friend watch it with me and we both were like, this is so bad.
Well, here's the thing, right? It's only come into my head, right? You look at Hocus Pocus, theatrically released. Kenny Ortega, if I'm getting the director right. Brilliant film, we talked about it, we had this on the podcast before, masterclass in set design, costumes. There's a bit of teeth, there's a bit of an edge to it. The Sanderson sisters are evil, they just want to eat kids and there's no explanation for it. They just want to eat them. That's fine. Do it if that's your thing. You be you, go have a Brat Witch Halloween, right? When you look at Hocus Pocus 2, they're still nasty, but it's so it's sanitized, it's like musical numbers. That edge is taken away. So is that like a sense that Disney's still doing this? When you look at Halloweentown, had it been theatrically released, I think, did you say, Victoria, earlier on, they wanted to go darker? I mean, we want to see the original cut of this.
Yeah, like the initial pitch was aimed at adults, but I don't know how much darker it would have been, because Hocus Pocus thing about that is it appeals to kids and their parents, whereas I feel like Halloweentown is something parents stick on for their kids and they may watch it in the background or something.
Yeah, babysitting services.
Yeah, that's a babysitting film that you put on at spooky season when the parents are out getting drunk.
Not a bad thing.
I'm sure the parents are having more fun than the kids are.
Well, they're getting to see Debbie Reynolds, and, doing stuff, and as they say, getting chased down the street by a menacing bag.
Doing a little hop for the little effects in the film theater, which made me laugh a lot.
Oh, it was so
worth every penny.
Oh, I did like the theater scene. Like I liked the idea, because the idea of them being a secluded town away from everybody where they're safe and there is something nefarious going on, like that part was appealing. It just felt like it was it didn't matter. It was just written in, and then they kind of hoped you'd forget about it because it didn't matter. And then
It is a slow burn. It's
Yeah.
a very
very
slow burn.
slow.
It's all wholesome family stuff at the start, and then it's here's the scary stuff, and give me goosebumps, give me eerie Indiana, give me round the twist.
Yeah.
Because that was kind of stuff I watched. Because at 15, I don't think I would have been watching this. As I said, I didn't have the Disney Channel. We didn't even have Sky back then. But I don't think I would have watched this. But
No.
there's clearly... I don't think there's going to be... Maybe I'm wrong. And if that's the case, message in. I don't think there's going to be kids out there going, I was watching Halloweentown when I was 4. Scared the shit out of me. I've never let the child trick or treat since. Never. She sits at home and she watches Casablanca on Halloween. I don't know why I went to Casablanca. She just watches
Casablanca.
She just watches the good movies. She watches Lifetime, and she doesn't go out. I don't think there's going to be any kids like that. I could be wrong. Like, it's not going to be like me watching Ghostbusters 2 in the cinema when I was 8 and scared shitless, properly shitless. And I can see why kids would get freaked out by Hocus Pocus. I can get
God,
that.
yeah.
Totally get that. But no, there's not. And I know where Jim McMorrow's coming from. In that sense, we'll give gateway drugs for horror and for Disney. Give them something like Bride of Frankenstein, the original Dracula. I get that, all the James Whale stuff. But would you really sit like a 3 or 4 year old down to watch Bride of Frankenstein? Probably not. Some people might. You would, Brian.
Yeah. Yeah, the listeners can't see this, but I have a Bride of Frankenstein Teddy from Build-A-Bear in the background. I'll be that kind of parent. But even when you're saying that, Hocus Pocus does have some scary bits, and I think kids that grow up and become horror fans, part of the appeal is watching something that is scary, and you kind of know you're not meant to be watching it because there's a possibility that you could get scared.
Yeah, and it's like
never
being
one point in that
it's like-
film
It's
where
like
I thought
drugs.
kids would be scared. Yeah,
It's like drugs. You want that fix again.
of course you do.
Two things. Ghostbusters 2 in the cinema, I had to be removed. I got that upset. And
Oh, poor baby Jim.
Ghostwatch I've talked about before terrified me. Terrified me when I watched it on Halloween night on BBC. I was too young to understand that it was a fake documentary. Loads of people have talked about Ghostwatch, and I know because it's in my mind again because we screened it last year at the festival, and more recently we've had Haunted Ulster Live, which is fab, by the way. But I do. You want that fix again. You want to get that hit again. It's not like that perfect little kind of like that science experiment where they put the wires into the rat's head and he can hit that little buzzer and get that little fix, and it's guaranteed to be that fix every time. Horror's not like that, kids. Neither is Disney.
And that's the takeaway.
That's the takeaway. You watch Aladdin and you love it and you go, oh, brilliant, they're making Aladdin 2. I'm going to get that on VHS.
Aladdin was scarier than Halloweentown.
Yeah, but that's what my point is. Like, Aladdin was good. And then you get Aladdin 2 and you go, what's this? What?
And then you get the remake, the live action.
Yeah, we don't talk about the live action.
Hey, don't forget, kids, we're getting a live action remake of Lilo and Stitch.
Yeah, and we're getting a Mufasa prequel for some reason.
Yeah.
Because they make money.
Disney.
That's why. Because they make money. And I would see through something like that Mufasa prequel if it was just straight to Disney Plus. I would get that.
Yeah.
And I think in the good old days, our days of proper television with adverts and anything, and you didn't like something, well, fuck it, I'm going to have to wait another half hour till this is on. That, like, the likes of that would have had its home at Disney Channel alongside Halloweentown. But I guess now our expectations of stuff have changed, and I am surprised Mufasa's going straight to... I'm surprised it's going to cinemas, but not surprised, because it'll make a silly... Well, I don't know, because you look at the likes of Joker this year, so many films have bombed now. haven't made their money at the box office that they want, because people are getting used to going, especially a title like Mufasa will go, well, in a couple of months I'll be able to watch that in Disney Plus. I'll maybe just stick on The Lion King again.
Yeah, exactly. It makes me wonder, are we losing with streaming, especially with stuff like Disney, are we losing that sense of nostalgia that you had for childhood films, because these films weren't on all the time, they weren't at your fingertips? Like Halloweentown wouldn't have been on that often, whereas now I can watch it any time of year. Like, would I have felt different if I watched it as a kid and thought, oh my gosh, remember that film that I watched 5 years ago, and then developed a love for it for that? Like, I'm curious for anyone that's listening who did see this as a kid, do you think our experience streaming it as adults with it at our fingertips has influenced our opinion on it?
Well, we've got short attention spans now.
We do.
Now it's like a TikTok video in a minute. But then you look, it's weird. We were talking about this in the TV show this week. It's weird. Kind of, you look at social media now and kind of streaming and VOD services. Why a film like Practical Magic is suddenly back again in people's attention, and then we have the sequel. It's a legacy sequel. It's coming out. It's Practical Magic was a TikTok thing. It was all kind of trending and all that kind of stuff. Maybe if we start the campaign here today on this podcast and get Halloweentown trending again, you might get.
There is an audio from Halloweentown that does trend.
Yeah.
Where the kid goes, "Why are you so obsessed with Halloween?" And Marnie goes, "Halloween is cool." But like, I couldn't have told you that was from Halloweentown until I saw the film.
No, you can.
Now I can. Now I can be that annoying person that goes, "Well, actually."
I think this proves the podcast is in fact educational.
Yeah.
We're doing our job here.
Necessary, really.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's funny, like you say, like that's a TikTok trend now, and people might go back and be like, "Oh, that's from a Halloween film. I might watch it." But that's the question: is how many people, will watch this film at Halloween this year? Compared to how many who watched it when it came out, or when it was a part of programming where it was only shown once a year, or maybe throughout a week during the year.
Yeah.
It made me thoughtful when you were talking to him about like anticipation for movies.
Yeah.
Like, because I remember being so excited for Princess Protection program coming out.
Oh my God, yes, because Disney Channel rammed that advert down your throat to the point where you're like, I have to see this movie.
It's Demi Lovato, it's Selena Gomez, I have to watch it. Whereas, I don't have that same sense of anticipation.
Again, curious for anyone that did watch this on the Disney Channel back in the day, was there marketing around this? Like, were you hyped for it, or did it just kind of appear one day?
I will say.
And you probably don't have. You think of Disney Channel, it comes that idea. It's like, if you're coming home from school, 4:00, put on the Disney Channel. If it's on, you're probably going to watch it. You might watch it and do your homework and etc. But it's going to be on. It's not now with streaming. You can go on. You literally, like, it takes me and my lovely wife like about an hour to go through of everything. You go, what will we watch? Will we just watch Bob's Burgers again? Watch Bob's Burgers again.
I fully support that. I know Therese Highland will support that as well.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think people, maybe it wasn't forced down their throat, but because it was programmed television, and I think, did I read this somewhere? Maybe not in all its regions. Isn't Netflix going to trial programming, like, for stuff's going to be on at set times? We're going to go full circle. We're gonna. It's like it bugs me when people just because you never knew what we had to go through, you bastards. When people complain when say Netflix or say Stranger Things, it's like, well, I want it all now, all 10 episodes. I want to be able to watch it. It's like, okay, and then they get up in arms when something like The Boys does weekly release, and you're like, well, I want to watch it. Well, I'm going to go on Rotten Tomatoes and I'm going to give it a 30% review because I didn't get to watch it all at one go. There's this weird sense of binging and entitlement I get with streaming. It just bugs me. It's like, I have no issue with watching stuff week to week. I struggle to put my week in on a normal basis. So being able to plan, like at the minute, Tuesday night is Only Murders in the Building, Thursdays, Agatha, All Along, all that kind of stuff. I like that. That's what I grew up with. Friday night, that's on. This Saturday night, this is on. The fact it's just, we have so much, we can have it all there, all at the touch of a button, and we still can't decide what to watch. We watch Bob's Burgers.
Even the way things are written now, like they're written for people who are going to be binge watching it. Like episodes don't end the same way they used to. Like I'm sure other people listening are doing the same thing I am. I'm rewatching Gilmore Girls as you do in autumn. And you can tell the way it's structured that there was a week gap in between, and you can always tell when there's like a mid-season pause for Christmas. You don't get that with shows now. Some of them literally just boom, 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 because they're designed for you to watch them as a binge.
Yeah, you
like,
look at Disney
I feel like
stuff.
we're not earning the films and the shows anymore.
Yeah, you look at Disney stuff now. Now, I would say Agatha All Along is different. I would say it's different. I mean, I'm a couple episodes behind, and probably She-Hulk is the other one, and maybe WandaVision, but just in its format. But so many of those, I'm trying to think, like the last, not Captain America one, the one with Sebastian Stan, Winter and the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It's just a 6-hour movie, broken up. That's all that
Didn't the
is.
Star Wars, was that not the same kind of format with the latest Star Wars streaming show as well?
Yeah. You know, short form storytelling and long form storytelling, they're two different things.
Very
Old
different
man
things.
Jim.
It makes me wonder, like you were saying, Maria, like are they going to turn this someday? Like is Halloweentown going to get a big resurgence, and are they going to turn it into a show?
So
Like- Oh no, go ahead.
I actually was doing a little bit of reading into this before, and Disney did an event not that long ago. I think it might have been like last year, the year before, was for like the 25th anniversary. And they held a screening for fans in the movie theater that's filmed in the movie. Or like where the big finale is, the fight scene is filmed.
Yeah.
And
Fight
scene.
scene.
Hop scene. And I was curious that they did that because it seemed like, because that seems like something that like they don't tend to do stuff like that for something they're not still interested in.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And I wonder if there will be, if that was kind of not treading the water, but like testing the waters for, could we do it's Marnie's daughter, like that sort of a thing, because they're doing that with Wizards of Waverly Place. They brought it back.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm curious. I feel like it's definitely one, because like the Descendants was mentioned earlier. There's definitely an appetite for like very like cozy but zany, costumes, and like there's not a real big sense of threat in this film, and I'd be curious to know what it's like in the others. But yeah, it feels like something that they're probably gonna recycle fairly soon.
Yeah. See, I'd be curious to know, would they bring back Kimberly J. Brown, because she was in the first one as Marnie and she was in the next two sequels, but then they replaced her in the fourth one.
That's harsh.
But I don't know why. Because again, when I was doing
maybe she went through her
fugly.
Maybe she went through her fugly stage, or
I don't even think she did. Like I think she was an adult, or she was going, because Halloweentown High is the third one, and then there's another one.
Do you think
that? So she would have been like early adult. So I don't understand, because her age would have been fine.
I wonder if she looked like slightly too, like, it sounds awful. I wonder if she looked slightly too old, and they just went, someone new. Most of these kids,
it's Disney at the end of the day, like, isn't it?
Like, I feel like they absolutely would just switch someone and be like, "Hey, Marnie,"
and nobody acknowledges it. Like when Jennifer got recast in Back to the Future, you just ignore it.
It feels like a real. I feel like there's something else recently that did that. Oh, it's gonna annoy me. But yeah, I remember watching it and being like, "Oh, this is a bit cringe." But yeah. Actually, speaking of cringe, I'd just like to raise one thing from this film that's been bothering me the whole time that we've not addressed. and it's the broom seller. Thoughts?
Yes! Oh my god, he's so sleazy, and you can tell he's trying to be funny, and he's just no.
He just likes old Debbie. Wants to,
I mean, can you blame him?
no.
Wowza.
He's gonna sell that broom to Debbie, and he's by hook or crook. He's on. Look, as someone who worked in sales, he probably was being paid a pittance, and he needed that commission for his little monsters back at home. His little Trump supporters.
Future MAGA.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't. Yeah. I. Yeah. I had to raise it. I'm sorry, guys, to make you relive it. And it was important to me that we address it.
I guess the consensus here is that it's a very lukewarm response from the three of us. But is that because we watched it as adults and we don't have the same love for it? I think that's a big part of it. Like I was
just
on the podcast with.
Just to cut across and be terribly rude, I've just remembered that the lovely Margaret McGoldrick, who I mentioned was on the show, did watch Halloweentown when she was younger, and she wouldn't say she loved it, but she had fond memories of watching it when she was about 4, and rewatching it now as an adult. She said she just felt a little bit, oh, Margaret, come on, you could have done better at 4. But yeah, something like that. I guess if you watch this at the time, it's you like anything. You'll have rose-tinted glasses for everything. Different people like different things. People have weird things that they love from when they're younger. I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm just kind of I generally don't mean that in a bad way. It's just that sense. It's like people get obsessed about weird and wonderful different things for no other reason than the fact that it happened to be on, or my mum put that on, and yeah, so. I'm sure there's people out there who have fond memories of it. I await the 10-part series that, as we said, that Disney will release.
We're calling it now. We're pulling a Simpsons. We are predicting a 10-part Halloweentown series in the next couple of years.
It's like Halloweentown or something.
Oh, don't, because that's exactly what it's going to be called.
Maybe they'll do like a Return to Oz and get Return to Halloweentown.
And they'll have like what do you call them? The really creepy characters that are on wheels.
TikTok?
The Wheelers.
That's it.
Oh, yes.
The Wheelers.
If they did that, that would be more fun, because Return to Oz is dark and it's weird. Mm-hmm. Like, that would at least be interesting. But I feel like if they did do a series, it would feel very Hocus Pocus too. It would feel very sanitized and very clean. And it would play on the nostalgia bit, but to the point where it's kind of loses its charm.
Would they, though? Would they? Because Hocus Pocus, and I hate this phrase, and it wasn't me that coined it, and I can't remember who it was on the TV show made this point. All the people behind Disney Plus now, they all go, the studios, or the top execs at Disney, they don't think of, and whether they did at the time with the Disney Channel, they don't think of this as being art or as film as about. It's content, it's IPs. What can they scrape from this? And I think it is depressing when we think of, this type of thing. But Hocus Pocus, I guess, felt like something that was designed by committee. And it was that sense, we need this and we need that. And, it's got a big queer following. It's got Bette Midler. It's people love the musical numbers. And they constructed it. And they clearly had a very idea of what they wanted to do with that IP. I hate that phrase. But Halloweentown, I don't think it has that same cult status, so I think they would be more willing to. You want to go do it, and Debbie Reynolds is coming back and she's murdering people? Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Or, you've got that salesman, he's out, he's, killing people. That's fine. I think they would. I think, yeah, it's undoubtedly an IP and franchise that they love, because they've returned to it numerous times, and as you mentioned, Maria, they've done the event a couple of years ago. I don't necessarily think they'll have murder in Halloweentown, that type of thing, but I guess something like that where there's maybe less money involved, they could afford to be a little bit risky, or maybe not. I don't know.
It's an interesting one.
Maybe in like 5 years' time, this podcast will have been like quite prophetic. And, we'll come back to it and be like, dear God, what have we done? One of them
caused this.
Shit.
We're so sorry.
Yeah.
We listened to the podcast. We said, yeah, we gotta do Halloweentown 2. Return to Halloweentown, the search for Curly's gold. We're gonna make it. And if we get a producer's credit, I'll go on every chat show, every Disney streaming service, every streaming podcast, and sell that shit and say it's the best thing since sliced bread. And then when it comes out, I'll say, well, they tampered with my vision for Halloweentown. I didn't really want to do that. I have a cut somewhere in my vault that I wish so they should release the Banterflix cut of Return to Halloweentown.
Banterflix cut.
Yeah.
We'll get a petition going.
Yeah, that's what I want. That's what I want to happen.
I think we'll bring the podcast to a close. I don't think there's much else we can say about this film. Consensus is lukewarm reaction, and I'm sure we've maybe angered one or two very devoted fans, but we're sorry.
Are any of you gonna watch the sequels?
I might watch the second one, but the subtitle of it is Calabar's Revenge, and I don't know if I care enough about the villain to sit through it.
But what if you watch the second one, and then because there's a third one, Victoria, you go, well, I might watch that one.
Maybe.
Lucas Grabille's in it from High School Musical.
I'm sold. I'm going to go watch it now.
Yes, any devoted fans out there, we're sorry.
I'm not. Halloween. It's going to happen. We're going to get the producer cred, and who cares about the haters?
When we go to the premiere for this, can you wear your Cookie Monster tiara, hat, headpiece?
Absolutely. I think we should wear the exact same outfits we're wearing now. And these were lucky. This is audio, listeners, but anytime Maria is trying to be serious, threatening, or getting angry, I just see two little Cookie Monster eyes just kind of bobbling on top of her head, and it's like, oh, who could be cross with that person? Not I'd be cross with you at all, Maria. I think we should put a screenshot of this up and be like, check the fit.
I think we should put a screenshot up, and I think what we should do is we should send it to the producers of Halloweentown and say, we got your back. House and Mouse forever.
I like that idea.
Yeah, House of Mouse forever is great.
The last we need to talk about Disney podcast series that we did was the Disney Dark Age, where we did kind of a retrospective look at the period of Disney that was a bit not wishy-washy, but very uncertain, very unsteady. It was a period when they just lost Walt and they weren't really sure where to go creatively, and it kind of led to the eventual renaissance of Disney, which a lot of 90s kids associate with their childhood. We're going to keep that retrospective idea in mind, but for this series, we would like to do Disney Channel original movies and shows. So if you have any recommendations, anything you'd like us to cover, please hit us up. I would very much like to watch Princess Protection Program, Wendy Wu, Homecoming Warrior,
Halloweentown 2.
Probably, nope, Camp Rock, High School Musical. We're going to do it all.
That's So Sweet Life of Hannah Montana.
Yes. And we will talk about the Hannah, Jake, and Jesse love triangle that Disney adverts rammed down our throats and made me obsessed with watching.
No idea what you're talking about. So
you will.
You're going to love it, Jim.
House of Mice
drama.
Let's make the House of Mice great again.
Oh, well, on that positive note, I think we will call it a night. Maria, thank you for co-hosting.
Thank you for having me. This was so fun.
And Jim, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. And nice to have the Disney pod back. And nice to have your lovely self, both your lovely selves back on the pod.
Yeah, it's fun. Mm-hmm. That is all from us. Goodbye.
House of Mice forever.
Bye-bye.